Good morning. My laptop's broken. I'm just going to put this over here. Hello, and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church here in Pasadena. Welcome all members, friends, and guests here in person and virtually. My name is James Coombs, and I am a member of your Board of Trustees. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. With respect for the rights and wisdom of Indigenous people, we acknowledge our harmful colonial histories and commit to decolonizing our own practices to learning new ways of being in community. In good relationship with the Indigenous peoples of this land and with the land itself. Today's service is led by our Director of Religious Education, Matt Vasco, and RE Assistant, Hannah Peterson, with music by Dr. Zenaida Robles, Wells Lang, and Grupo Arroyo, featuring Dan Cole on lead guitar, Jessica Fichot on accordion, and Brandon Turner on bass. I hope I got that right. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. And thank you for continuing to join us as we prioritize connection over perfection in this hybrid service, which is streamed and recorded on YouTube. Based on guidance from our COVID safety team, masks are recommended, though optional for congregants inside and optional outside. And families with young children are absolutely welcome in the sanctuary, in the narthex, or in our new family lounge located in the living room of Neighborhood House, where the service is streaming on a big screen TV and the lounge is staffed by a host to help you feel at home. A few announcements for you. It was a busy social justice week at Neighborhood Church. Last weekend, a mighty Esperanza group went to Tijuana and poured cement footings for a new home. We've got some pictures up there, I think. Another dedicated group showed up at Pasadena City Hall and demanded carbon-free energy by 2030. And yesterday was the big send. Thank you, Justice. Yesterday was the big send for our Get Out the Vote letter writing group. Neighborhood had over 50 letters written, 50 letter writers, to complete over 2,500 letters, contributing here to the San Gabriel Valley effort, and these are our values in action. Wonderful. Here's some other ways to get involved beyond this morning's service. So pastoral care volunteer signups are continuing today, both online and on the patio after service. A big thank you to everyone who has signed up already, and please consider doing so if you have not. The next First Friday supper is coming again this week. Please RSVP with Matt so we can get a count for dinner, and I can't guarantee there will be donuts there or not, but we'll see. In preparation for calling a new minister, there are a number of upcoming discussions and activities and events this week. First, on the patio today and next week, share your thoughts and questions about the minister's role in shared leadership and the proposed ministerial advisory committee. Second, sign up for a terrific two-part workshop on examining our biases and practicing belonging, happening both November 8th and 10th on Zoom. And finally, mark your calendars for a potluck lunch and congregational meeting on November 13th to hear results of the survey, the cottage meetings, and much, much more. Our order of service and more extensive announcements are available in a link in the Sunday email, posted in the narthex, or through the QR code on the back of your hymnal. You can always get more information on these and many other activities at the welcome table. And again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
Good morning. I wanted to make sure I dressed appropriately for church today. And you may ask yourself, how is a donut with sprinkles appropriate for church? And the answer is, I'm holy. Our opening words are by Steve Garnis Holmes. Halloween, a day we get it right. Strangers come to us, beautiful, ugly, odd, or scary, and we accept them all without question, compliment them, treat them kindly, and give them good things. Why don't we live like that every day? And this by Florence Caplow in honor of Dia de los Muertos. As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments, and their love continues to bless the world through us.
Our opening hymn is number 346 in your gray hymnals or on the screens above. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn 346. Come sing a song with me. I'd like to invite all of our children to come up and sit so we may read the story.
Can you sit okay? Now, as we all know, it is Halloween, but there are many other holidays that occur around this time, and one of those being Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. So today we're reading the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. We celebrate our ancestors on the Day of the Dead with offerings of flowers, sugar skulls, and bread. We make tacos, empanadas, mole, and treats. Smell incense that burns smoky and sweet. Before we go out, everything must be done. Pack up our bundles before the setting sun. Under twinkling stars and the moon glowing bright, lit the candles that flicker with soft yellow light. Mark a path for the spirits with the petals of flowers. We dance, sing, and remember the loved ones for hours. Celebrate our ancestors on the Day of the Dead. We smell the sweet flowers as we lie down for bed. Millions of people from Mexico and parts of Central and South America observe one of Latin America's most popular holidays called El Dia de los Muertos in Spanish and Day of the Dead in English. It is a special time for remembering loved ones who are no longer living and is celebrated every year from October 31st until November 2nd. People prepare for the holiday by baking or buying special foods. Pan de Muertos, or bread of the dead, is a sweet bread baked only for this special holiday. It has a tiny skeleton doll baked inside. The person lucky enough to get the little skeleton in their piece of bread can make a wish that will come true. Sugar skulls, or calaveras de azúcar, come in bright colors. They can be eaten at the end of the celebration. People also gather the favorite foods of their deceased loved ones. Tamales are a popular treat at the celebration. They are cornmeal cakes filled with meat, wrapped into corn husks and steamed before eating. Altars of the departed are decorated with cempasúchil, or marigolds, and candles are displayed in homes and schools. Sweet-smelling incense is burned to attract the spirits of the departed. On the night of November 2nd, families go to the cemetery. They spread the petals of marigold flowers, burn incense, and light candles to welcome the spirits to the celebration. Then they dance, sing, and have a picnic, and share memories of their loved ones. Families leave the flowers on the graves at the end of the celebration as they begin their journey home. The popular Mexican artist, Jose Guadalupe Posada, inspired some of the skeleton characters in this book. His engravings of skeletons and the skeleton lady with the large flowered hat, La Catrina, have become symbols of the Day of the Dead. And now I will invite everybody who is dressed up to come around in our costume parade so that everyone may see their wonderful costumes. And now, if you would all please sing our children's out with our 8th principal song.
Giving is a spiritual practice through which we put our values into action. And each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of contributions to a local social justice organization or activity. If you're visiting for the first or second time, welcome. You are our guest, and please let the plate pass you by. In addition to the plate, online giving is available using the QR code on the donations box just outside the sanctuary or using the text shown on the screen. If you're a member and wish to make a payment towards your pledge, make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the donation box. All recipients are identified by church members. All the recipients for Share the Plate are identified by church members. And to recommend an organization, fill out the application on the church website or ask a board member to connect you with the Share the Plate committee. And this week, our gifts go to Team Lucas. And here to tell us about Team Lucas is Marilyn Rupar-Dubner.
Good morning. I'm a member of Team Lucas for the 2022 Walk Out of the Darkness for Greater Los Angeles to support the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or AFSP. Team Lucas was founded in 2017 by church members Susan Pender and Samantha Westcott. This year is a particularly meaningful year for Team Lucas as Susan Pender passed away in early September. Susan was my friend. I know that she would be proud that we are continuing this work that she was so passionate about. Each year, as many as 40 members of Neighborhood Church participate in the Greater Los Angeles Walk Out of the Darkness under the name Team Lucas, in memory of Susan's son, Lucas Pender, who died by suicide in 2012 while he was an active member of Neighborhood Senior High Group. This year will be our 6th year participating in the walk, and we hope to raise $5,000 for AFSP. As you might have heard in the news, during these years of the pandemic, the work of the AFSP has been more meaningful than ever. Suicides and suicide attempts have increased nationwide, and AFSP has been active spreading the word about suicide prevention, advocating for public policy that encourages positive mental health, and supporting survivors of suicide loss. AFSP recently won a major victory in the introduction of the 988 National Suicide and Crisis Hotline, for which the organization had lobbied heavily. AFSP is a cause that is near and dear to the hearts of our members and friends. Those who knew Lucas knew him as a shining light that brightened every place he went. He was a strong advocate for social justice, and he believed that we could create a better future through our actions. And now we have the opportunity to create a brighter future by donating to support the worthy cause of AFSP. As AFSP often reminds us, talk saves lives. That's why we talk about this topic as a community, and that's why we participate in the Walk Out of the Darkness, to rally around this cause and to connect all about it. If you feel so moved, you can join our team, Lucas, for this year's walk that is taking place this Saturday, November 5th, in Pasadena Central Park at the link in the order of service. Please give generously to this special collection to support Team Lucas and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Thank you.
Will the ushers please come forward?
tuvieras fe como un grano de mostaza. Esto lo dice el Señor. Si tuvieras fe como un grano de mostaza. Esto lo dice el Señor. Tú le dirías a la montaña, muévete, muévete. Tú le dirías a la montaña, muévete, muévete. Esa montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. Esa montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. Esa montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. Esa montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá.
Our reading is by Kieran M. Newman. The title of this 2018 article from Greater Good magazine is How a Haunted House Can Make You Happier. You're walking alone in the dark when suddenly arms grab you from behind. You turn around and see a demonic clown who proceeds to stab you with a fake blade and lock you in a coffin. This is the genre of thrills you can expect at the Scare House Basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a haunted attraction for people 18 and over that promises intense and R-rated horrors. As Halloween approaches, people are flocking to such experiences all over the country. But why? That's the question posed by Margie Kerr, a former sociologist who worked for Scare House and now is an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh, in a recent paper published in the journal Emotion. We typically try to ward off negative feelings in our everyday lives, and yet people happily fork over $31 an evening for terror, disgust, and anxiety. Kerr and her team created a makeshift lab in the basement of Scare House, putting lab equipment in a bathtub and a testing station in a closet. She recruited people who had already bought tickets to complete surveys and have their brains recorded with EEG before and after the Scare House experience. Attendees reported that they reported on their mood how they felt a variety of emotions, such as happy, sad, or angry, and how they felt overall, from awful to wonderful. They also answered a few questions about what the experience made them think and feel. Then, researchers fitted electrodes to their heads and tracked brainwave patterns as they completed some mental tasks and looked at a series of pictures, some incredibly happy and others violent or tragic. The results showed that participants were in a better mood after 35 minutes of intense thrills, particularly those who went in feeling frustrated, bored, or stressed. The experience tended to wake people up from their tiredness, as you might expect, and it also made them feel less anxious, perhaps because they were no longer anticipating a hood being thrown over their head and their lips getting fake sewn shut. In comparing before and after EEG readings, the researchers found that their natural reactivity tended to decrease for a series of tasks and pictures. In other words, their brains were less active, using fewer resources and probably thinking less. Markedly, this was true for certain unpleasant pictures and tasks, like ruminating on a problem in their lives. To the researchers, these findings suggest that extreme fear may be a form of recalibration, making other things that don't involve demons yelling in your face seem less scary and stressful in the future. This is consistent with the fact that people who said Scarehouse challenged their fears were in a better mood afterward compared to those who didn't. Within the context, this is a quote now from the piece in Emotion. Within the context of safety and control, guests allow themselves to lean into the fear-inducing experience, end quote, write Kerr and her co-authors. It, quote, offers opportunities to practice aspects of endurance and distress tolerance, potentially resulting in bolstered resilience, end quote. That could be the same reason why some of us are driven to watch scary and tragic movies, despite the goosebumps and tears they induce at the time. This study may also have implications for people suffering from mental illness. Many treatments for depression or anxiety, for example, attempt to mute negative feelings. In contrast, this experience suggests heightened, unpleasant feelings can shock our emotional system in a helpful way. This approach is similar in some ways to exposure therapy for confronting fears, except it adds fun and a social element. For Scarehouse attendees, the experience was scary, revolting, and uncomfortable, and nearly 90% of them couldn't wait to do it again.
Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Aunque la vida me cueste, llorona, no dejaré de quererte. No dejaré de quererte, llorona, aunque la vida me cueste. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona, picante pero sabroso. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona, picante pero sabroso. Llévame al río. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Dicen que no tengo duelo, llorona, porque no me ven llorar. Dicen que no tengo duelo, llorona, porque no me ven llorar. Hay muertos que no hacen ruido, llorona, y más grandes son sus penas. Hay muertes que no hacen ruido, llorona, y más grandes penas.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. This is the refrain I sing around my house this time of year and drive my poor family crazy. My wife's laughing. She knows it's true. It's a well-established fact in my household that Halloween is Daddy's favorite time of the year. And I just love it because it's just plain old, good old-fashioned fun, you know. I grew up, you know, going to parties and bobbing for apples and all that kind of stuff. And I still, to this day, very much see it as a celebration of creativity. The holiday asks little of us other than to check out the cool costumes that our friends, families, and their kids came up with and just enjoy each other's company. But what's really fun too, I think, and I think going back and looking back at it as a child, is that it's one day a year when you can really be anything you want to be. You know, it's really an exercise in imagination. But what can we really get out of Halloween and the other holidays that are celebrated this time of year? Where did these holidays come from, and why do we still celebrate them today? This is what I hope to unpack for you today. I think it's a fairly well-known fact that Halloween started out as a pagan festival known as Samhain. But exactly how did this transformation happen? Well, Samhain still exists. And our own CUPS, or Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans group, just held a Samhain ritual in Ross Chapel just yesterday evening, and it's still celebrated in Ireland. Our own Jen Morris, a member here at Neighborhood Church, describes it as, quote, the pagan New Year celebration on the wheel of the year. We remember those who have passed, and we celebrate this gift of life, unquote. Even though this is where we find the deepest historical roots for Halloween, Samhain still has meaning for people today. And people like Jen and our CUPS group are keeping the holiday alive. As Unitarian Universalists, our sixth source of the living tradition is spiritual teaching of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. So if you haven't had a chance to check out our CUPS group yet, I highly recommend that you give it a try. Historically, Samhain originated in Ireland and is even believed to have predated the Celts' arrival in Ireland. There's archaeological evidence to suggest some type of autumnal observance as far back as 2,500 years ago. The historical Samhain festival always started on October 31st, which is where the date for Halloween came from. It occurred at this time because it's halfway between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice. As Jen mentioned, it celebrates the Celtic New Year. It was also a celebration of the liminal time, of transition from the brighter half of the year to the darker half. The Celts believed that during this time, the veil between the spirit world and our world was lifted. It would allow spirits to act with more powerful agency in the human world. A lovely aspect of Samhain that somehow didn't make the transition into Halloween was that Samhain was a time of peace because earthly arguments and struggles were temporarily suspended. Christianity arrived in Ireland in the 5th century CE, and Christians found it easier to convert people to Christianity if they incorporated their pagan holidays into the Catholic calendar. All Saints' Day, which is sometimes also referred to as All Hallows' Day, was originally observed on May 13th, but it was officially moved to November 1st by Pope Gregory III in the 8th century. November 2nd then became All Souls' Day, further incorporating aspects of Samhain. And then Samhain, on October 31st, started to become known as All Hallows' Eve, or evening, or later, Halloween. This change, of course, happened gradually over time. But Halloween was imported into the United States in the 1800s by Irish immigrants and became part of American culture, and has continued to evolve from there. Trick-or-treating was actually imported from Canada, where Halloween is also celebrated. I wanted to pause for a moment here and talk a little about All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, as these are Catholic holidays that are still observed today. Having grown up Catholic, I have a personal connection to All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, so I can tell you a little bit about my experience and how they have been meaningful to me. I went to a Catholic elementary school, and we would sometimes be invited to dress up as saints for All Saints' Day. This day honored those who had been sainted by Rome. Many of these saints were martyrs for Christianity. As a child, and I would say even still today, I still have a favorite saint, and that is Saint Francis of Assisi. He is the patron saint of animals. And I learned in writing this sermon that today he is also the patron saint of the environment. But I don't remember that from back in the 70s, so I don't know if that was added or I just didn't know. But I loved animals when I was a kid. I still love animals. And I just thought he was pretty amazing that he was the patron saint of animals. Also, Francis is my mom's middle name and my grandpa Vasco's middle name. So I thought, St. Francis, that's where it's at, I should admit, actually, that I even dressed as St. Francis for All Saints' Day one time. For me, it was a little bit like dressing up as your favorite superhero, All Souls' Day comes the day after All Saints' Day, and it celebrates all Catholics who have passed. Anyone who is baptized into the Catholic Church who passes away is celebrated on All Souls' Day. And in middle school, when I was about 12 years old, my grandpa Vasco passed away. And I just remember All Souls' Day being particularly meaningful to me around that time. It meant a lot to me that there was a day set aside for me to honor my grandpa, who I loved very much, who had died too young. So that's some of my personal connections to those holidays and how they're still meaningful for people even to this day. Jumping back over to Halloween, did you know that jack-o'-lanterns are not an American invention? They were originally carved, believe it or not, out of turnips. And they come from a traditional Irish folk tale about Stingy Jack. I'm going to tell you a little more about it. According to the tale, Stingy Jack was a clever drunk and a con man who was able to con the devil into banning him from hell. However, because he lived a life of sin, he wasn't able to get into heaven either. So Stingy Jack was forced to roam the earth for eternity, looking for people to con. He carried with him a turnip that was carved into a lantern, and inside was a red-hot ember from hell that helped to light his way. So people started to carve faces on turnips and put a candle inside to help light their path and protect them from Stingy Jack. And then the Irish started to come into the United States. There was a big Irish immigrant movement in the 1800s, as I mentioned. This was around the time of the potato famine in Ireland. And the Irish brought that tradition of carving turnips at Halloween time, and they transitioned to carving pumpkins because they're softer and easier to carve. And thus, the modern tradition of the jack-o'-lantern was born. I think we can thank popular American Halloween movies and horror flicks for helping to spread Halloween traditions around the world to countries as diverse as Russia, China, and Japan. It's the scarier aspects of Halloween that some people find displeasing. But I recently learned of an interesting take on horror movies, and it kind of goes along with my reading. I have a friend named Patrick Hamilton from back when I was a Universal studio guide last century. And he's a co-host of a popular podcast called Kill by Kill, which is like a horror movie fan podcast. And Patrick was just a guest on the Upworthy podcast talking about how he got into horror movies. He said that when he was a kid, he was, quote, an incredibly fearful child. But he got this idea that if he educated himself about things that scared him, like vampires and werewolves, then maybe they wouldn't scare him so bad. His school had a set of Crestwood books, which were these books that featured various monsters like the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Mummy, and Frankenstein's monster. And they helped him start to ease his fears. From there, he got into Fangoria magazine, which is sort of a fanzine for horror flicks, and he started to learn how they do the makeup effects for movies like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. His obsession with horror grew from there, and it ultimately dispelled his fears completely. So there it is again. The horror genre can actually serve as a sort of immersion therapy. This brings me to the holiday that Hannah taught us a little bit about earlier, and that is Dia de los Muertos. While Halloween views death and the dead, and the undead, for that matter, as scary, Dia de los Muertos, which originated in Mexico, was also brought to the United States by immigrants, is a joyous celebration of the lives of those who have passed on. Like Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, which takes place on November 1st and 2nd, believes that the veil between the spirit world and our world is lifted to some degree. And that with Dia de los Muertos, this allows our loved ones to come back and visit us if we put out an ofrenda or offering to them, such as placing a photo of them on an altar or placing their favorite foods upon an altar. We have a Dia de los Muertos altar in Ross Chapel that we co-create each year with the students and the Spanish teacher, Marisol Perez of Sequoia High School, which rents our programs buildings during the week. So since that's a shared space, we have a shared altar over there. And everyone is welcome, please, to place a photo of a loved one upon it or a favorite food item after service today. It's actually quite beautiful if you'd like to just go by and take a look at it. There's another holiday that takes place this time of year that, like Dia de los Muertos, also originated completely separately from Samhain or Halloween in another part of the world, and that is the Hindu holiday of Diwali, also known as the Festival of Lights. Diwali is derived from the Sanskrit word Dipavali, which means row of lights, and it symbolizes the spiritual victory over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. It originated in India, and some cities there put on big fireworks displays. Diwali's a 5-day festival, and in 2022, it began on October 24th. I actually have a friend named Shubhshri who is Hindu and moved to Pasadena from India with her family. And I asked her what Diwali means to her and her family. And she said this: since we're so far away from home, Diwali never feels like the real thing, because the moment I step out of my house, it's daily life. No vendors, no hustle and bustle, no smell of delicious food cooking from neighbors' houses. But we do celebrate it within our family and our community as we would in India. More than a holiday, it has become our connection to home and to our roots. I love this holiday, and even though the prep almost kills me, I'm always sad when it's over. That last part reminded me a little of Christmas, I think. I think when we look at all of these fall holidays as a group, they're an opportunity for us to thumb our noses at things that scare us in the dark and cold of fall and winter. They celebrate the triumph of good over evil and reconnect us to loved ones who have passed away. While ghosts, goblins, werewolves, and evil spirits might all seem scary around Halloween, there is, of course, always the skeptical view that none of these things actually exist. There are plenty of people who believe these things aren't real. Even though popular culture and movie mythology do a really good job of amping all of these things up, there is no actual evidence, according to science, to support that anything supernatural actually exists. When my daughter asked me if I was afraid of ghosts, I said, no, because there's no such thing as ghosts. They're not real. And honestly, I think my answer kind of disappointed her. Meanwhile, of course, she's really good at jumping out of hiding places and scaring the bejesus out of me at Halloween. She always jumps out and says, boo, But to her credit, she does exist. So that's working in her favor. If thoughts of afterlife and eternal damnation scare you, then I offer this very rational humanist perspective, because of course we can take a look at humanist perspectives here in Unitarian Universalism. There is evidence to support that everything that makes up who we are, including our consciousness, is physical, and that we are the sum of our parts and nothing more. So when we die, the synapses in our brain stop firing and simply cease to be. We don't need to fear death or the afterlife, because when we die, we simply end. Eternal rest is truly granted unto us. And everyone who came before us who has passed on, is also at rest. When we die, we return to being part of the natural world. We return to the universe. It's not bad or scary. It simply is. Personally, I'm quite fond of our Universalist heritage when it comes to the afterlife, because they believed that all are saved. Essentially, our Universalist predecessors believed that we would be given the opportunity after death to reconcile our differences with God, and that upon doing so, we had the opportunity to go to heaven. So you don't need to fear hell, because it's pretty empty. There's nobody there. Regardless of what happens after we die, as Unitarian Universalists, we believe that what truly matters, to paraphrase Mary Oliver, is what we do with this one wild and precious life. Service is our prayer. Love is our doctrine. Whenever you get to feeling low or feeling like you don't matter, go and be of service to someone else, and you'll quickly see that you can make a difference. One person can make a difference. You do matter. In the prophetic words of Jane Goodall, everything we do makes a difference. We must determine what kind of difference we want to make. Now, go and make a positive difference. Amen and blessed be.
Closing hymn is number 123 in your hymnals or on the screens above. We're going to sing Spirit of Life. We'll sing it in Spanish and English. I'm not sure we have the Spanish lyrics today, but if you know them, you can sing them in your heart. Oh, we have thumbs up. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Su amor volar, sube en el mar, hasta lograr la justicia de la vida. Arráncame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Please remain standing for our benediction. For those who have come before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Amen and blessed be.